great time at the National. I'm sure you guys, I saw you guys there. It was great to meet you for the first time in person, Chris. Whereas Josh, we met in 2019 at the National, but I had a great time. We're going to get into Card Ladder and the new feature that you guys added this week. We'll get into it, but I want to talk about the National and kind of debrief it a little bit with you and just hear like how was it for you, Chris? It was your first one, right?
Was my first National, for sure. I've been to many sports card shows, small in size, regional. Been to many card shops across the country as well. But my first National. And I don't know how much – should I just answer that question or should I talk about it or should I hold off? Because I have a lot to say about the National.
Oh, so Josh, as you would well know, when Chris says he has a lot to say, that could take a whole hour and a half. So, but no, I mean – it was your first one, Josh. I know it was 2019 when I met you the first time. Was that your first one, or was that you'd been there before even 2019?
Yeah, I went to 2018 as well.
All right. So guys, before we get into it, I just want to say welcome to After Hours. Welcome to, and I don't even have the banner up. I can't do it with three of us. That's okay. Welcome to the chat. If you were just with us with Brian Gray, thank you for coming over to this show. As you know, Chris McGill, Josh Johnson, co-founders of Card Ladder. Chris, formerly, I guess, of House of Jordans. Josh, still of Cardboard Chronicles, and now of the Crossover on Instagram, Friday Night Live show that they do. I watched it last night, so and thoroughly enjoyed it as always. You guys have a great chat and a great thing going on there. But so yeah, let's Josh, let's start with you because I know Chris is going to take longer. So let's start with you, Josh, and just how did you find the 2021 National compared to 2019?
A lot more people. A lot more people. I would say, I don't want to say twice as many because that's probably exaggerating, but it was definitely a decent percentage more people. I thought it was more that there was a lot more going on, right? There's a lot more people that have joined since, so the energy around it was a lot higher. Probably higher prices, much higher prices than 2019, which is a little bit discouraging as a collector, but I get it. That's where the market's at today. I mean, for me, it's just like, it was just kind of scaled up. It's always the same for me. I don't really go there looking to flip or deal or buy and sell too much. If I can find stuff, that's great. If not, that's fine as well. I go there to, meet friends and have fun. So it's just kind of scaled up. There's just more people that I know since the last one. There's more people involved in the hobby now. So it's just more and more fun every year, I feel like.
Yeah, well said. Really, that's what it came down to. It was more fun, and it's because there were more people there, and all the relationships that that you and I have both been able to make over 2 years, really, right? So, yeah. Chris, what was it? What you thought it was going to be? Was it bigger, better, worse, smaller? What was your experience like?
Well, I mean, it was all a blur. I think we could all probably attest to that a little bit. Just before you know it. First, it's Tuesday and you're settling in. Then it's Wednesday and all of a sudden VIPs are coming in. And then all of a sudden general admission is open. And then it's Thursday and you're just in the thick of things. All of a sudden it's trade night. Then Friday is here and you're like, oh, my body's sore from doing all this standing and on concrete, but I'm still going to keep pushing through. Saturday comes around and you're like, oh, man, this show is over because half the people are leaving tonight and I'm just getting started. And then, some of us were there, especially local guys. We were able to be there Sunday and just squeeze every last ounce out of it. I was there until they closed the doors on Sunday, and I just didn't want it to end at all. It was magnificent. If like Brett from Stacking Slabs described it as sports card Instagram in person, yeah. Which I thought was a great way to sum it up for all the best reasons. It was just nonstop action. If you were a content creator in the space, you couldn't move 15 feet without running into somebody who would listen to your show. Or if you're Jeremy Lee, you had a whole booth and a shrine to Sports Cards Live. Very fitting, might I add. One of the most popular and safe destinations for anybody circling the show. If you didn't have anything to do, go say hello to Jeremy because he's always there to greet you. I got some take-home memorabilia from your booth as well. The sticker, the button, everything. I mean, everybody was benevolent. They were generous. You would never run out of people. You could throw a stone and find somebody with a common interest to you to talk to about the industry and about cards. it went so fast, man. I wish it lasted a month. I wish we had 2 a year. To me, it has to have been, at least in the 5 years that I've been back in the hobby, a little bit more now, it has to have been the single greatest gathering of collectors and sports card enthusiasts that's ever taken place. And, I'm already counting down the days till next year in Atlantic City.
Did you pick anything up?
Nothing. I didn't even get a chance to walk the floor, man. Between, talking to card ladder users, which was one of my absolute favorite parts of being there, to, talking to fellow content creators, talking to fellow collectors, taking meetings, networking. We approached and made contacts with many of the key players in this industry. That was one of our missions when we went there, and we definitely did that. But between all of that and the fact that, we were also working on card ladder while we were there, there just wasn't time for me to just sit back and enjoy it as a collector. And I wish there had been, because prior to this, my show going experience is, walking the floor and negotiating and trading. Even at the Dallas Card Show, when we were there in an official capacity to some extent, I was still able to pull off a big trade. But this time it was overwhelming number. Even if I had tried to walk the floor, or if you had Jeremy or Josh, I mean, you would have had to swat people away with like a fly swatter and just say, okay, let me make my moves and do my business here. Cause there's just so much enthusiasm and so many people there who wanted to connect.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Josh? Did you pick anything up, make any deals?
I did. I sold quite a bit of stuff. I put a bunch of cards out at our table. I shoo people away more than Chris does. I usually just walk away and don't say anything, and eventually find my space to get back to some cards. And I also did pick up. Well, actually, I had this sent in like last October, but I picked it up there and had it slabbed, or it was slabbed, but they messed up the label, so I had it reslabbed. So it's like I got a new card. I also bought a 24 karat gold, which is already boxed up and traded. So I don't have that right out with me because I traded it already. But I did sell another like Penny Hardaway card. I sold some football stuff. I sold some like PSA returns stuff, LeBron stuff. Nothing too major.
So, okay, now let's switch gears a little bit, guys, and talk about the event, the Wednesday night event that you guys co-sponsored. Is that the right terminology? You co-sponsored with Rodman of Rodman's PC and Grant Slayton, I believe, as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that a bit, Josh. How did you, I saw you there, obviously. How did you enjoy that? And was it all you hoped it would be?
Yeah, Grant and I did that same thing at the 2019 show. It was just me and him that kind of threw it together and wanted to make it, an enjoyable private event for some of our friends in the hobby. And we wanted to do it again. And so this time, instead of, branded as Cardboard Chronicles, I just decided let's just throw Card Ladder on there and kind of make it the same thing, really. It was just bigger this time. We had more guests, more friends that we've gathered up over the last 2 years, and it ended up being a pretty awesome event, I thought.
How about you, Chris? Was it what you thought it would be?
I didn't have expectations. And last night on the crossover, we were getting questions like, what would you have done differently? How could you have improved it? And my answer to Josh at that time is the same one as it is today, which is that I'm still wrapping my arms around what it actually was that we just experienced for the last 5 days. Well, I guess it was a little while ago now, but it feels like it was yesterday. I'm still trying to wrap my arms around it. So I didn't have any expectations, and my experience of it was just like Brett said, it was like being on Sports Card Instagram, but in person. And that's like really high praise because, Sports Card Instagram is a dopamine rush for all of us. Maybe it's only me, but I don't think so. One of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning, I've barely been up for a few minutes. I'm going to Instagram and I'm seeing the messages in the group chats, and I'm seeing what everybody's posting in their stories. I'm seeing the new cards that people posted. And man, sometimes when I, relieve myself in the middle of the night, even I find myself looking at my Sports Card Instagram as I'm traversing back and forth. It's maybe to call it an addiction is a little strong, but to be able to take that joy from the community and put it into a room and fill it with tens of thousands of people. I mean, I don't know, however high my expectation could have been, this would have exceeded it.
I don't think there's anything that we could be doing in our life and not be hobbying on our phone one way or another. Like whether you're relieving yourself in the middle of the night, whether you are having special time with your partner, whatever it is you might be doing, you can still be Instagramming, looking at eBay, whatever it is you're doing on your phone. And I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that. Okay, maybe I'm trying to be funny too, but all right. Let's go to a couple of comments here. We haven't done that yet. We got Andy, my guy. She blinding with refractors. Hey, Jeremy, Josh, and Chris, excited to hear the discussion. Should be fun. Glad to have you. The big unit, good evening to you. Super Bad is here. Troy, hello, Jeremy, Chris, and Josh. Excited for another live stream. Thank you, Troy. Noonan Cardboard, big shoes to fill after Brian. What a fantastic interview. Really looking forward to this as well. Thank you, Noonan. Beans is still here, is here again. Welcome back. Welcome back. Jeremy Pringle says SCL Trilogy Maryland. I don't know if you guys know or saw, but I went live this afternoon for 2 hours. I thought I'd go for 45 minutes. I ended up going 2 hours. That's just I can't make these things short, guys. I just can't make them short. But this is my third stream of the day. Triple C says, wow, your first, thought you were a vet. Looking forward to your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's been to the National, right? But and that brings me to this next question for both of you guys. Not that it was ever up for for not happening, but Atlantic City next year, 100% you'll be there if everything works out, just in terms of life.
Yeah. I mean, short of COVID shutting everything down again, we'll be there.
Right on. Fire Sports Cards, looking forward to another great show. We got Yamwax in the house, everybody's favorite Instagram account. So awesome to meet all of you there, and half of IG last week, no doubt at all. Triple C wants to know, is House of Jordan's done? Loved that show back in 2020. So did I. Chris?
Well, I make a lot of content these days, Jeremy. We have our show, Sports Cards Culture, that comes on YouTube once a week. It's like a fully produced show. Then we have the crossover every Friday night. But it might be fun to squeeze in a reunion episode sometime and trot back out the House of Jordan's contents. But I don't want to make any promises. But yeah, I miss making that show too. But I love the new content we make. So,
hey, things are always moving forward, right? Always moving. Maybe best not to look back. But I do like the idea of a reunion episode at some point in time. Tyson Lee in the house. Welcome back. Glad to have you. We got Name from Indigenous Rookie Cards. Good evening to you. Rage is in the house with us right now. What else we got? Lee Haskins says, curious if Ziggo will be here. Did a video on this video that was on that video. For some reason, he's not a fan of Card Ladder. Yeah, not everyone's a fan of everybody, I guess. Jake is here. James says, Chris is so dressed up for this interview. Yeah, we all are. It's a t-shirt kind of hobby.
Thank you, Sniper Manus.
What's that? Oh,
just thanking my buddy there, the Sniper. He's a great guy. Great Instagram follow. Great whatnot follow.
Okay, we have a question on Card Ladder here from the Fifth Beetle. Enjoy the show. I've been wondering about what the Card Ladder score on Card Ladder is supposed to represent and what it is based on. Thanks. Which one of you guys wants to take this question on Card Ladder? That guy up there.
Nice. Josh could make a great meteorologist one day with that skill set. Score is an attempt to make a Billboard Hot 100 of the financial performance of sports cards. It's a formula that's objective, that's published, and it weights 3 variables. The first variable is change in price over the last 2 weeks. The second variable is so the change in price, but measured in 2 different ways, measured by percentage change, which is the first variable, and then measured by absolute dollar change, which is the second variable. And they're weighted in different amounts. It's, if you care to see it, the formula itself is in the FAQ to Card Ladder. And then the third variable is transaction volume, which is weighted very little, but it's like a tiebreaker. And so you look at those variables as metrics of financial performance of cards, and then it generates an objective score. I likened it to the Billboard Hot 100. Maybe a better analogy for a sports viewing audience is quarterback rating, QBR, or player efficiency rating, something like that. And so it's only applicable to the last 2 weeks worth of sales. It's an important caveat to note. So if a card doesn't have 2 sales in the last 2 weeks, it will not receive a score, which is going to be a limiting factor on certain cards being able to appear. But it's one of the sorts that we provide. So we have 13,200 cards in Card Ladder, and they have all-time sales histories that have been fully vetted by a human researcher. And so of those 13,200 cards that are in the database, there has to be ways to organize them. And we provide about 15 different ones, and Score is one of them. To me, I like Score. I find Score interesting. It tries to capture which cards are doing really well over the narrow span of the last 2 weeks. But there's lots of different ways to sort the cards. You can sort them by their population size. You can sort them by their current value. You can sort them by last sold. You can sort them by percentage change over a number of different intervals. There's lots of different sorts, and Score is one of them.
All right. Thank you for that explanation. Offlix says, Card Ladder, the most reliable card data on the planet. Those guys really care about the accuracy of their data. I think and I think what he's getting at here, and you can just confirm this, but you guys vet the data that you get to ensure that it is what? To ensure that it's what? I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I don't want to just be the one who's blabbing on and on, but some of these questions are kind of up my lane. So the most reliable data on the planet. Yeah, so to my knowledge, in the space of sports card data tracking, we are the only people who assign a human researcher, and oftentimes that's me and Christina, to vet every single sale that comes into our database. And so when somebody says reliable, I think one of the things that they're referring to is the fact that if you see a point on a graph in Card Ladder, a human being who's knowledgeable of sports cards said that belongs there. There's no machinery, there's no automation, there's no computer that's attempting to substitute its judgment for what we all know when it comes to looking at comps requires human judgment. And if you just think intuitively, when you're on the show floor at the National and you're comping something out, and let's say you're looking at the Trae Young Prism-based PSA 10, one of Josh's favorite cards, and you look at the sold and completed, and you see auctions are ending for $250, $280, $290, $240, and then you see one for $2,000. Mentally, collectors are going to exclude that as an outlier. And so if we want, we can go through the guidelines that we use when we make exclusions. And when we do make exclusions, we don't remove the data. We just don't put it on the graph. We put it into a separate category that's called purgatory that anybody can look at. But we make those judgments so that ultimately when we add value to somebody who's trying to look at the financial performance of a sports card over the last however much period of time, all the way back to the very first sale of the card, if you'd like, because for every card in our system, we build the all-time sales history, which takes a lot of time and effort and research. But if you'd like to look at that sales history, you're looking every single data point on that graph, every single list in the sales history, a human being said that belongs there.
And why is, I guess I just want to, why is that important? I mean, you've kind of said it, but what you mentioned, a $2,000 outlier. What else might be excluded? And two-part question: what else might be excluded? And is there anything about this process that is not transparent?
What else might be excluded? We know, all eBay users know, that people will sometimes call their item a PSA 10, and it is not a PSA 10. It might be a BGS 9.5. It might be a PSA 9. It might be an SGC something. It might be one of the dozens of other grading companies. It might be a raw card. But in any event, sometimes you get junk that comes into a search history that doesn't belong there. So that's the type of stuff that gets filtered out as well. Some of the other things that get filtered out are mislabels. Sometimes you get listings where a card has a severely cracked case. And so in that instance, although it's a PSA 10 and it's in a PSA 10 slab, that is really not an item that's necessarily going to fall into the category of what a PSA 10 sells for. So that's likely something that's going to get sent to purgatory. There's lots of little weird permutations and things that happen from time to time that get excluded that fall into that category. Pick your favorite card and search it on eBay, and you'll kind of see some of the weird things that show up in a search result, which is good and bad. eBay is the Wild West of listing. You can put whatever you want for the title, and you can get creative, but it's not standardized. And so there's value in organizing that data. In terms of transparency, is there anything that is not transparent? No. One of the most important, deadly important topics to us with Card Ladder in particular is the transparency of the processes, of the organization of the data, of any methodologies that we employ in processing the data, and in how the data is vetted. Transparency is absolutely essential to us. It's principle number one. And I think the hobby, that is the ethos of the hobby, of the great hobbyists, is that it is better to know. It is better to put all of the information in front of an audience and equip them with the ability to make a decision with all the facts in hand. So in terms of transparency, that's our number one mission and goal, is to make everything as transparent as humanly possible. Even Josh and I are transparently available. We are responsive to DMs, and we take any and all questions every single Friday night.
Josh, anything you want to add to this line of discussion at all?
No, we'll have a lot more to discuss on this. I guess I'm looking through the questions, so
okay,
sure
all right. I haven't gone down that far yet, so let me get there. Yeah, I'm just talking about the party room. Said it blew his mind to meet Gene McLeod of Arena Design there. Billy, even though I was one of the people that built the set with McDavid's Young Gun, Upper Deck doesn't reveal print runs, even when people guess outrageously high or low numbers. That was in reference to the last episode. Glad to see you as always, Billy. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute here, guys, to find the next on-point question. Triggerfinger, the actor in the original Card Ladder commercial, is tremendous. Why hasn't he landed any major acting roles yet? I'm sure it's just about to come. She blinded me. Andy says, biggest takeaway from the National was there are a ton of great people in this hobby. That's a great takeaway, Andy, a great takeaway. Toa, Jeremy, you're a machine. What's the pregame meal? I had Fat Burger for dinner tonight, guys. Oh my God, there's so many comments. How am I going to do this? Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm seeing Jeremy have like existential angst right now. This is why I'm a terrible guest on Sports Cards Live, because I'll talk and then there'll be 100 new
There was like 12 monster questions while you were talking.
Okay. Can you see what time they're at so I can locate them? Because I'd like to.
I mean, I don't want to answer most of them. So
you do or don't?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. Okay. Good gosh. I'm just going to run through them. You guys tell me if you want to talk about them or can or whatever. And if not, we don't, I guess we'll just run through. Oz Card Dad, do the Card Ladder lads, do they have any concerns moving forward in regard to the new eBay sales data tool?
That's a great question. First of all, there's excellent potential with what eBay is doing. So eBay is making it easier, for example, with their price guide beta, to be able to get a year's worth of a sales history, which is tremendous because right now, if you use their sold and completed, they only give you 90 days. So that is very promising. That's an increase in the level of transparency. Kudos to eBay for making that data available. That's one of the good parts here. It's also good to introduce people to the concept of collection tracking and the concept of price guides based on comps if they're not already familiar with it. And I think that as a tool like that gets rolled out and introduced to more people, people who find it valuable are going to then do research, and they're going to look and see what are some of the products and services that are providing price tracking and attempting to be comprehensive price guides and attempting to provide collection tracking software. And if I may say so humbly, I think that if those people do a sufficient amount of research, they're going to encounter our product and they're going to give it a try, and hopefully they will like it. So I see two main upsides to what eBay is providing here. I see a number of downsides as well, but I'm not really in the business of giving tips and advice to people who have become competitors in a certain sense. We are providing a price tracking and a comp website and a collection tracking service, and now eBay ostensibly is too. So I hope that tool becomes refined and becomes the best version that it can possibly be, and there's reasons to like it. There are upsides to it. Oh, and one other upside is that I think it's now easier to see best offer accepted using their price guide feature. It's always been available through Terapeak, which is a subscription service, but it's also available to anybody with an eBay store. But now I think it's even easier to see best offer accepted going back for the last year using the price guide. So that's a great feature as well. Like I said, I have ideas that are very easy concepts to employ, but at this time, it's just really there's no reason to supply them. But hey, eBay is more than welcome to get in touch with us.
All right. Triple C says, why do you have a score? Why not just a change in price or percentage? What value does the score provide?
Yep, we'll just tackle this really quickly because we've already gone over some of the facets that are answers to this question. First of all, we do have change in price and change in percentage, but depending upon who you ask, one of those variables might be more important than the other one, and or both matter. And in the case where both matter, if you don't only care about a card that, so for example, which is a hotter card, a card that goes from $100 to $200 in the last 2 weeks, or a card that goes from $5 to $50 over the last 2 weeks. One has increased by an absolute $1.45, the other has increased by an absolute $1.100, but the percentage difference tells the opposite story. So how do you split the difference, or should both matter? And so for people who are concerned and who are interested about, hey, maybe both of those factors matter, score is a way to integrate and look at them both. But surely you do not need to look at score. You can just look at percentage change if that's what piques your interest, or change in price.
Yeah, like this guy here says, I don't understand the point of the newest feature that you rolled. Just give me the data. Well, you're giving. Are you not also giving the data? Like if Hockey 99, I think it's Corey Parsons, doesn't understand the point of the newest feature, then just don't use it. Is that a simple answer to that?
Yeah, it is. But this question also, it gives an opportunity just to speak briefly about what the news feature is and why it's nice. But to Jeremy's first point, if you don't like the newest feature, the data that you are looking for is still there. It is still nicely presented and packaged in there, right in prominent eye line, right in your eye line. But the newest feature is an attempt, a humble attempt, an attempt that will be riddled with flaws and mistakes and errors, but it's an attempt to assign a price, a real daily, a moving daily price to every card in our database and to any card that's not in the database. It's a very, very powerful tool. What's the point of it? To some of us, that's an interesting concept, and it's interesting to model where prices might be at in the interim between comps. And that endeavor takes on increasing importance as the rarity and the scarcity of comps increases. So for super rare cards, assigning a daily value is more practically important than super liquid cards that trade every day and are going to have a card ladder value that's the same as their last sold.
Okay, and I just want to say to Josh, anytime you want to pipe in, because I know Chris is the data guy, but anytime you want to pipe in, just let me know, Josh.
Yeah, I can give a more like applicable example of what it's for. Like the comment was like, just give us the data. It is the same data. It's just more data. It's literally just more data. The example I've found to be the best and most helpful and how to use it is it's like a guide on how to talk through a conversation of what a card is worth that hasn't sold in a long time. So like the example I used was the PSA 10 Michael Jordan Fleer Thrill Seekers. I think the last sale was in January of 2021. And I believe it sold for about might be like $9,000. I can't remember. But the question is like, okay, so this hasn't sold since January. So you're at a show or you're dealing with someone on Instagram and you say, okay, well, clearly we got to figure out what the price is since January. Where do we go from here? The first thing you think about is like, well, what is like a similar Michael Jordan card done over that time span? What's something else we can comp it to that has sold more recently? We can figure out where the market has moved. We've just done that in an automated process for every Michael Jordan card that we have in the system. So you can just literally map out what has happened since January for all Michael Jordan cards. And it gives you a jump off point to say where that Thrill Seekers would be potentially today if it had followed all of the Michael Jordan cards averaged and normalized since that date. And it's just a conversation starter in terms of like, how do we value this thing? Because that's the ultimate question is like, what's this worth today relative to what it was then? Does that mean this is the value you two should consummate in this deal? Potentially, maybe not. It's just a conversation starter, because usually, most people are afraid to give the first price because they don't want to be too high or too low. So, we'd love to help give some sort of answer to that question.
Okay. There was a question that came up. I'm not going to put it up there, but they said, is this a hobby for you guys or more of a business endeavor?
Both. I mean, we've been hobbyists for 5 years, and we lead in with that. And we use the hobby knowledge we have in order to spring up the business that we now own.
And is there anything, I mean, this is a question to the chat too, but is there anything like inherently wrong with using your hobby knowledge or skills to maybe make it into a business? Like what's fundamentally wrong with that? I don't understand that kind of line of thinking. Like, just, so many collectors go, they use their hobby experience and knowledge to earn a living because it's what they love. Doesn't mean you're stop being a collector. That line of thought, which I've only heard a couple times, so I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but if someone out there feels that way, you're very narrow-minded, and I think you need help sort of understanding the way the world works, because if you like cars, you might go into car racing or selling cars. Is that wrong? Right? I think that's wrong. Anyway, just a random thought there that I was having as I'm thinking about that. I'm going to bring this one up because I've heard it before, and I think it's interesting. But DR, 13,000 cards in the database. How do you explain the reliability of the product with, I think he's saying, with only 13,000 cards in the database? Can one of you speak to that?
Yeah. For example, the last Golden auction had about 6,000 lots in it or so, and Card Ladder had coverage of about 60% of that auction. As a general observation, Card Ladder there's millions of cards out there, but there are certain ones that transact far more frequently than others and are, quite frankly, more followed and more in demand to be followed than others. And of the 13,200 that are in the database, we have a surprisingly robust level of coverage. Even the Mile High auction, which is mostly vintage oriented, vintage baseball, basketball, football. When the data tracking was done from their auction that ended, I think it was Thursday night of last week, I didn't run any systematic analysis of how much coverage we had, but I'm sure it was around half. So not bad for a database that's a year old, I would humbly submit. And in the bigger picture, eBay released statistics that said it had about 850 million in total sales in the first quarter of this year. And at that time, our database was about half the size that it is now. And over that same period, we tracked around 250 million in sales. Now, some of those sales came from auction houses and other platforms, but if that rate of if 6,000 cards or so, which is what we had at the time, but very strategically selected based on a democratic voting process that helped us get the most important cards in the system first. If 6,000 cards translated to about 25% to 30% coverage of eBay, now we have 13,200, and those same cards were added using the same methodology. It stands to reason that the comprehensiveness of the coverage is getting strong quickly. But by the same token, there's a philosophical choice that we made, which is that we prioritize accuracy and depth of data. So if and when a card makes it into our database, there will never be a better data set for that card. That card is going to have its all-time sales history. It's going to have a picture of the specific card and the specific grade. It's going to have links out to references and resources that are specific to that card. It's going to have links to its population report. It's going to have its population report being generated. It's going to have a very well-defined search query. We're going to pull in sales from that card from 13 different platforms, and that list is counting. So that's the other side of that coin too, is that when we do begin tracking a card, that card is being properly tracked, and you're not going to see bad data associated with it going forward. So I wanted to throw that in there. And then, we have around 1,500 different players in the database, and we now offer the ability to do what we're calling the price check. So based on the assumption which is an assumption that can be wrong in some situations, but based on the assumption that a player's total market index is a reliable predictor for the general movements of any individual card that would comprise that player's index, we allow anybody to name the player and a comp of a card in the past, and they just punch in that information, and the price check feature is going to project where that player's total market index would suggest the current price of the card is. So hearing myself say that, it sounds pretty nuanced, but it's a very simple process ultimately in practice, and I encourage anybody who's intrigued to try it out. I know Jake, 90s B-ball cards in the audience, has used it to much success with his Penny Hardaway collection so far. So, all right, let me pause there and see if Josh has any thoughts on that topic too.
No, not really. You covered it pretty well. I mean, yeah, the price prediction stuff for the collection, I think people are looking for it to, like, I saw some of the questions. People are looking for it to, like, track specific comps and sales, and it will for cards that are in the ladder, right? So, like, if you're trying to add a card that we don't have in the 13,000 and your concern is like, oh, we only have 13,000. I've actually spent the majority of my time. So Chris spends the majority of his time, vetting the sales, adding the cards, really combing over the database and making sure it's pristine. I've spent a lot of time on the UX and the experience from our users to try to give the perception or feeling that we do have every single card in the system. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Mostly, adding the card that you have that we do not have, giving you notifications when the card that you submitted to us has been accepted, merging those two cards once it is accepted in our database, making that a smooth process. And now with this new feature, that's one thing we didn't talk about yet, but like the new card ladder value, the main purpose for me of what it solves is, like, again, giving you that guide on where to start to value your own cards that no one else can do. Because if you own a Penny Hardaway Grand Finale and this card hasn't sold publicly in, I don't even know if it ever has. But if I can at least punch in what I paid for it and when I bought it, maybe it was 3, 5, 10 years ago. And if the system can at least give me a decent estimate based on the Penny Hardaway market since that date and time, it's a great starting point. It may not be the most accurate thing ever. I don't think anyone can give me an accurate answer of what that's worth unless I send it to auction. And at which point, if it sends to auction, I can update my score, right? If it at least gives me some sort of answer, it gives you this feeling that, like, something is tracking my value and I'm getting some sort of update every single day. And I can at least have a decent estimate for insurance purposes, for the purposes of appraising my own collection, for, a deal with another buyer or whatever. There's all these different use cases for it. And we're not attempting to, like, give the perfect answer. That's impossible. What we're attempting to do is guide people into what we feel can help them, get started with their collection and tracking it every day.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, I'm going to go back in time here. There's a comment that I'm going to address here from Triple C. He says, transparent. Do you have a third party audit your data decisions? So I'm going to take this one on your behalf, guys. And I'm going to say that, it is we did talk about transparency. There's nothing that they're saying is not transparent, but the key to this is that number one, they sort of are the third party verifying the data. And number two, anything that isn't included goes out for the public to discern themselves. So you can be the third party. I think when you offer third party verification or third party audit to the whole hobby, you don't need to hire someone to come in and do that and pay them. It just doesn't make sense. So I think it's the ultimate in transparency myself. Chris, anything to add that I did not say?
Very, very briefly, we do. There sort of is a fourth party, which is our users. Let me tell you,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we have super active users that we get lots and lots of messages every day that help us, make sure that if we miss a sale, we include it, or if we include a bad sale, we catch it. And also, suppose there was a fifth party that was helping to judge the third and the fourth parties. That just opens the question, who's going to judge the fifth party? And then when you start judging the fifth party, who's going to judge the sixth party? And all of a sudden you get an infinite regress.
I think the fact that you allow crowdsourcing to do it by putting any data point that doesn't get included into purgatory is the ultimate in in audit and transparency. Let's leave it at that, because that's as simple and clear and logical as we need to get. Zaggy, yes, says agreed. Give me clean data so I don't have to cleanse it myself. These men are doing God's work. I think that's a nice and pretty much an accurate comment as well. That it's not easy work, and you guys, I mean, I know the hours you keep, so pretty crazy. And it is a nice service that you guys are providing. The fact that you are vetting this data for the hobby, so that's great. Mike Wick says, sounds like you guys put in a lot of time and hard work. We appreciate your time and effort and love for the hobby. Amit from Cardboard Culture says, I love how Christina had Sasha T off your card letter business cards. I love the mindset to keep marketing your product. Nicely played. I smiled when I saw that. All right. I don't know what that's all about, but wonderful. Thank you, Amit, for joining. Jordan says, would a 60-second time limit on answers be helpful? It might be, but Chris likes to be very thorough in his.
Why does this always happen? This is like the millionth show I've been on where they said, "Can we put a time limit on this guy?"
I've been rambling too a little bit. It's not just Chris.
Fair. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to bring up this one here. eBay will improve their tool moving forward and is free, and they may keep their sales data in house, which would affect the price. The paid data tools currently. The difference there is that eBay is only going to track eBay data. Tools like Card Ladder, and there are others. They're. I mean, you guys are getting data, sales data from, I know, no less than 13 sources. Is that number even more than 13 now, or is it still at 13?
We did just add another auction house last night, so I think technically it is 14 now.
Okay, so I mean that's a humongous difference than what eBay is doing. Not to say that eBay's tool isn't good for eBay comps, but you guys are providing a much more robust indication of the overall market, and I think that's important. Zaggy says eBay will never be able to catch card letter on their card specific features such as my collection or indices. Yeah, I mean, maybe not, but definitely not on the robustness of a picture of the whole hobby itself. Triple C says your Carlos, I don't know who he's talking about, it's probably because I'm Carlos, compared your score and prediction as more research. Is that fair? He also pointed out that you are an influencer to so many that this could be concerning. What do you say to that?
It's definitely research, right? It's like we said, it's an additive tool that you can add to your belt to help you figure out things in the sports card market. It's not meant to be, the absolute market price for the whole world. We're not telling everyone what it should and shouldn't be. And it is so much. He's so right about the research part, because we literally wrote a fucking research white paper about it, 7 pages. So it is like internally for us, it is research. It is data science. It is very important to us. So on that front, he's correct. On the influencer side, I know what he's saying, but like I hate to just like to narrow it down. It is math. Like we're not punching in these CL values manually as much as people might want us to do that to make their stuff look more expensive. We are not doing that. It's math. So it's literally just taking just read the white paper. It's math. So like we can't influence the mathematics of it. Since Chris and I built it and I implemented it in the code, I haven't even touched it. It just runs every night. In the middle of the night, you wake up in the morning, you see the new prices. It changed because of the new math from the sales the night before. The influencer part potentially could be like, it could be like on the cards we add, I guess. There's some sticking point of like, if we added all of our cards that we own into the system, there could be some potential issues there I could see, just being fair about the question. But we mark all the cards that we own as owned, in the system, so which ones we own. We also go by what our users submit to the ladder, not us. I would love to have all my cards in the ladder. I think I'm probably I probably have one of the lowest percentages of cards in the system of anyone, because I own a lot of rare things, but like I've probably got 20% of my collection that's actually in card ladder, maybe a little bit less. So we're not adding our own stuff really. We're just kind of adding what people vote, and I would love for more of my stuff to get in, but that's not how it works.
And I guess that speaks to this comment here. Isn't this new feature a conflict of interest because you guys are also collectors? But if it's math, and what the thing about you guys that I really respect is that it's all transparent. There's nothing hidden about these these formulas and the white paper that you wrote that explains this. I would recommend anyone who's making a comment like this one, have you read the white paper? Because if you have, you might know what it is and not just put out a comment because you like to, stir the pot, which is, I think, what Criminal Mind is just likes to do, which is fine. I mean, that's how some people live their life. But is that is it just, it's math backed by the logic behind it, which is documented and published in the white paper? Am I right? Yeah. Okay. Troy says someone asked the bottom guy a question. That's Josh. Well, Josh, we just heard that comment's already 20 minutes
Ask
old.
about code and no more sales vetting. And I'll answer.
This question here, I heard Card Ladder doesn't include buy it now sales. Is that true?
No, that's not true.
That's blatantly untrue, and shame on whoever would perpetrate that. Always ask yourself when misinformation is spread, who benefits?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just I think a lot of people in the hobby, it's like any group of people in culture in our society, you're gonna have some people that just like to throw shade because and I think one thing else is important is that this is what I've thought about a lot recently over the last month or so, is that people in our hobby and in any walk of life who mistrust certain people, I think we project as humans, we project. So if you're projecting that, I think that's how you would be. That's, I think, the person that you would be if you were in this position. I think you would be the mistrusted person. And you're projecting it upon people who you really don't know who they are, what they are. But it says more about you as a person for throwing shade, that's how you would behave if you were in their shoes. I think there's really validity to that, because
Jeremy, that's deep, man. That's one of the most interesting psychological insights to ever make its way into into a waveform on Sports Card Podcast. And we need more of that. We need more of this philosophizing from time to time. But that's excellent insight, sir.
People really want us to be bad guys, Jeremy. What is going on?
And because
I hate to break it to you guys, but we're not bad guys. We're just two nerds that built a data tool and we're having fun with it, but that's okay.
It's because people look at themselves first. They know who they are and how they would behave, and then they assume that other people do too. Like I said, it says a lot more about them than it says about you. And people who know you, and many of them are in this room right now. Many of them we met you for the first time or have been spending time with you guys online at the show. I think they know the realness behind it, and the people throwing shade are just, again, it's more about who they are than who you are. I think I'm going to stand by that for sure. Tampa here says people get butthurt over other people making a nickel. That's for sure. And again, it's the same thing. People who can't do it, they air their frustrations against others. So I think
doesn't everyone need to make money in some avenue? Like if your skill is cards, you should be doing that. If your skill is programming, you should be doing that. If your skill is being a lawyer, you should make money doing it. I'm not sure. I'm not understanding how you have to make money. You got to do something. So you might as well do exactly what you want to do, right? So I don't know.
How about this one, Jordan? And this goes both ways. Are there any cases where you guys buy cards without utilizing Card Ladder, but at the same time, are there cases where you buy cards with using Card Ladder? Start with you, Josh.
I used the hell out of it at National because we hadn't launched Card Ladder Value yet intentionally. So I was cheating and using it on my phone. And that's actually how I know what to build next a lot of times. I'll use it, and I was annoyed at a couple things while I was at the show because this is the first really major show where I was able to use the app in person, and I took a bunch of notes of things that were bothering me about the app. But I use the Card Ladder Value, not to toot the horn and make it about this right now, but I used the hell out of that feature because there were so many cards that walked up to our table where I'm like, God, that hasn't sold in so long public. It'd be like a Shaq, a rare Shaq card, and I could just pull up Shaq on the app, look at some of the card ladder values and know like, okay, so Shaq's moved. Look at the Shaq player index, know that Shaq market's moved X in the last couple months. I can at least throw a number at. I can reduce the price of what the app is showing and make the offer to this person, right? So like it's a very easy place to start. So I'm trying to think of like a time I haven't used it. I mean, I at least look at the player index every time when I'm making a deal. So I at least go that far. I mean, if it's like a super rare penny card and it just like, I'm just like going off complete gut, I might not use the app, but it's pretty rare.
How about you, Chris?
Same. And that's why the price check feature is, to me, especially as like time rolls by and it's sort of been out in the ethos for a little while, in the atmosphere for a little while. Not the ethos, the ether. It's been in the ether for a little while. It's my favorite feature on card ladder ever, because it's just like Josh said, you can it's as simple as like, let's say you're buying a rare Shaquille O'Neal card, and you go and you look on PWCC's market research tool, because we don't have the card in our database, and you see that the last comp was from 3 years ago. And so you say, okay, so this card was $500 3 years ago. How do I even begin to figure out what it's worth today? And the common sense intuition that collectors go through when they're negotiating is, one guy is going to tell you, well, the Shaq market's up 10x, so I think we have to do this. Or here's a similar card, we comp it on that. So we gave a math shortcut that says, here's a total market index for Shaquille O'Neal. And by the way, those are not easy to calculate. So I know we have some people who like to follow our lead in the sports data space. That's one of the reasons why we publish the white paper. Even if you're going to copy our features, please read the white paper, because if you don't properly use divisors and if you don't properly calculate a total market player index, you could give people really dangerously bad data. So like, read the white paper, learn how to use divisors, learn how total market indexes are calculated, learn how to account for the addition of new cards over time. But that's a side note. So what we give people the ability to do is to plug in that Shaq card at $500 3 years ago, and the total market index of Shaquille O'Neal cards in our system is going to say, okay, on the whole, the Shaquille O'Neal market is up 5x since that $500 sale. That projects a value of $2,500 today. This was something that I did manually for years when trying to price cards, but I didn't have access to a total market index, so I would just have to go off of one card or one comparable. Now there's 1,500 players with the total market index that you can just literally, you take 10 seconds, pick the player, put the price paid of the comp and the date of the comp, that whatever the comp is you're looking at, a $500 Shaq from 3 years ago, whatever, just plug it in and you get a price check that comes out. Is that the definitive market value? No, it is not. But is it a tool that you can use to maybe, like Josh said, form a starting place of a discussion? It could be. It could be, or it could be wildly off base, but it's something. It's an interesting tool. And that, ever since that tool has come out, I mean, I use it just out of curiosity's sake. Even I use it all the time. So, for me, that's one of the ways to use, the card ladder features. But like, in terms of really using card ladder to buy cards, I do not, quite frankly. I have cards that are on my bucket list of what I want to collect that have been on my bucket list since 2016, before Josh and I even had the notion of starting card ladder. So, and I'm still mowing down that list. Whether the card is on card ladder or not, it does not impact, my personal collecting trajectory whatsoever.
Okay, guys, thanks for that response. A bunch of to the chat in the audience, a bunch of the comments have now, I can't access them anymore. There's just too many, so I've lost a bunch of them. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to address. I don't know how many I lost, but anyway, we're just going to move on. But I do see the most recent, the oldest comment I have is here from Jake. He says, I've used it a ton and loved it. It's fun and very helpful for my PC. He then goes on to say, I'm a card ladder user, if that's what you're asking, to Triple C. Joseph Galante says it's needed, and I used it every night at trade night at the National. So that's helpful. Jahan says to Chris, I'm JPine38, in case you're wondering, but I don't know what you said before, Jahan. I lost your comments. I don't know if Chris might have seen them though, but that's great. Rage says people need to understand that the super rare SSSPs and rare, hard to find, and they pop up like two that only pop up twice, are not tied to concrete to the last sale period. That's a good point. I agree with that. DeLon likes Card Ladder. Stoked to meet you guys. If National ever comes to California, I don't think it will. Your content is always awesome. Your sports talk is always cool.
Nice.
Super bad. Any thoughts on of PSA set registry value? Do you think it's up to date? I think you mean the population report, or do you mean the set? Do you mean the weightings within the set registry? We'll leave that one for now. Joe says it's not just for super rare cards; it has base cards as well. Talking about Card Ladder, I believe. Triple C wants to know who is the voice that does the intro for Sports Cards Culture. I love it. Who is that? I know who it is. Who is it, Chris?
Well, that's a very polarizing topic in the card letter world. Some people love it, some people hate it. But that is Stiff Arm Wax, the man in the closet.
The man in the closet. Okay. Tyson Lee says the stock market works just fine, and Card Ladder at its most basic principle or basic form runs off the same principle. Well said.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna take a second here to find what might be a good and important comment. Well, Jahan says people should listen to House of Jordan. Go back before the hype. Yeah, if you really want to know, if I can't speak to Josh on this, although Cardboard Chronicles was a great body of work and continues to be, but House of Jordan certainly is, and really shines. The collector shines through both of Chris and Christina and Brian on that show. Yamwax says, you guys track so many sales. Are there any cards or segment that have surprised you lately? Who wants it? Josh, you're nodding. You want? I gotta go to you because I know Chris will take too long. So how about you, Josh?
No, it's really interesting when people say something to Chris and I to the effect of like, "Oh, this market is super hot," and then we whenever they say that, we go look up their index and check, and we're like, actually, it's down 10% in the last month. But yeah, sure, it is up. You should keep buying it. The football stuff is doing really, really well. Like Josh Allen, his index is up 20% in the last month, which is an insane amount in 1 month. A lot of the football guys are doing really well right now. I mean, that's clearly because of the lead up to the hype of the season starting again. But it's just something interesting. We've seen wrestling cards do really well. Soccer's had its ups and downs, but soccer's done really well over the last year. Pokemon's done well. There's just a lot of stuff that you wouldn't expect has grown a lot over the last year that really has. And just honestly, just looking through the player indexes, you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot about different players. Like Kobe Bryant, his index is way down right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with just how much it went up prior to that. Like Kobe's run up in price was completely astronomical. Nothing's ever matched it that I've seen. Kobe Bryant stuff just went absolutely bananas, and it's sort of self-correcting right now, and his stuff is down quite a bit, but that's just because it went up so much.
All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to take this again. I've lost comments again because the chat is just firing away here. Triple C, auction houses are what we the people use. Do you consider scraping Facebook groups and IG? I think you guys can't really do that, but you do have the private sale feature now, which covers that if people are willing to use it and are going to. So the option is there. We'll leave that sort of at that. I think that's fine to go there. Offlick says the eBay tool has a long way to go. Let's see what else we got here. Tampa says people have always said that Dr. Beckett was fudging numbers and then picking up the cards he wanted that he printed were going down value. It will always be an issue in private companies. Yeah. I mean, the guy's just bursting with integrity. So, but people are always gonna poke at successful people because that's human nature for people who don't want to see other people succeed. If you like humanity, you're probably not going to take that position. You know
my take on skeptics as well, Jeremy. Even if the skeptics are attacking us, I think we need them, and I think they keep things on an even keel.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I want to do this one first because this guy sometimes has horrible takes. Yeah, we'll put it out there. Hockey says, I noticed Card Ladder didn't put out any national card negotiation videos. Would be interesting to see videos of failed negotiations. There's more to learn from that than the success stories. It's actually a good point.
What are you implying that we fail? That we will be the failures at negotiations?
If anyone's going to fail, where's our content to hold that down?
Yeah, and it's kind of it's actually, it assumes that's what you were there to do was film negotiations. I think you guys, I was there. I would say I didn't see much of you, Chris, because every time I went by the card ladder station, you were there very little. Josh was there more because you were busy working through the night doing your job. So I don't think these guys had time to videotape that. So to say that card ladder didn't put out any negotiation videos, it's like, why is that? Are you assuming that's their job? Hockey, you probably are. Because
how about let's break some news on Sports Card Live right now. We will, if we ever epically fail in a negotiation and we have the ability to capture it on camera, we will upload that epic failure in dedication to Hockey 99 so that a failure of negotiation will be documented on YouTube.
And then we'll title it Mistakes That I Made at National. That's always a really clickbaity title. So, I mean, it's pretty good content.
Top 5
Jeremy,
mistakes.
Yeah. You want to know why we don't, Jeremy? We don't really make that many deals. Chris and I buy like 10 cards a year. We just don't make that many deals. Like, I know it sounds kind of boring, and people may want to fantasize that Chris and I do like hundreds of deals and we're wheeling and dealing all the time. We really don't. We like the data side of it a little bit more than we do the deal making process. And I like the programming and development side of things more. And the cards that I collect, it just, I either find them or I don't. And if I do, I buy them. And if I don't, then I just kind of move on. I do a little bit of flipping and selling when the opportunity arises, but I don't really seek it out.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's enough guys walking around these shows documenting that, and it's highly entertaining. So it's not like if everyone was doing it, I think it would get a little bit boring. All right, Offlick says, I think people need to think of Card Ladder as a very helpful guide and not the hobby's official price guide. I see Card Ladder much more accurate than the Beckett guide was back in the day. I mean, that's just it. No one's forcing anyone to use this and you've never once said that these are what cards are worth. It's all transparent what is supposed to what you guys are trying to do with the various metrics that you're providing. But I want to bring this comment on. I want one of you to address this one here from Triple C. He says, because we talked about math, but he says, what to say about numbers are used to tell what the author wants. And then he says, seems like you are dodging the point. You're influencing users with math is okay. Very, very assumption laden. Not a comment that I think is a cool one whatsoever. But I don't want to leave it off. So I mean, do either of you want to respond to this? It's up to you if you want. If you don't, we'll just move on. That's fine too.
Well, I think the commenter has the cliche backwards. I think the cliche is men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. I think that's actually the one that he was reaching for there. But let's give it the benefit of the doubt. It's definitely worth being very concerned and focused and skeptical of pricing in sports cards on any level, in any way, shape, or form. Even if all a website was doing is just tracking comps and just aggregating them, they should be scrutinized. And those numbers should be looked at carefully and honestly, always with a skeptical eye. So having a skeptical eye is great. And whatever the point is, I'm not sure what the point being dodged is. You're influencing users with math. To the extent that there's a reason to be worried about that, I can assure you that we are. I can assure you that it worries me. So, like, for example, we have this new card ladder value feature, and one of the things that Josh and I made sure to install before the feature launched was a little metric on the dashboard called daily accuracy. And here's what that feature is in a nutshell. That feature says of the 2,000 sales, for example, that happened yesterday, each one had a card ladder value. And, card ladder value is just calculated by taking the last comp and tying it to the player's index. That's all it is. But okay, so card ladder value, how accurate was it compared to the comp? And so we'll get 2,000 different results, different percentages. This one was 98% accurate. This one was 80% accurate. This one was 50% accurate. We add them all together, and then we divide it by the total number of sales that we retrieved that night and vetted. and then we display that number so that you can see I don't know how to make it more transparent than that. If there's a way to do it, I would love to do it. So you can see just how accurate on the aggregate the card ladder value is percentage-wise. And if you want to look at the accuracy of any particular card, just go to its profile. You'll see the card ladder value there, and right underneath it, you see last sold and the date of the last sold. And so that percentage gets published to the dashboard every day. So specifically so that people can know, look, here's the plus or minus variance that you might want to think about. And of course, that's imperfect. That's really not how a confidence interval is calculated, but it's a rough approximation of here's roughly speaking how accurate on average this value is. And by the way, that number is going to be it's not going to be in our favor because we have lots of raw cards. We have lots of BGS slabs that have subgrades. So there's naturally going to be a high variance just based on the fact that raw cards will vary and have huge swings from week to week. But we still publish the number, and the number is not in our favor, right? It's traditionally been 75%. But so anytime you look at a card ladder value, assume a plus or minus 25% width on it, because what we're telling you is the card ladder values have been 75% accurate. But look, if there's a way we can be more transparent, there's a way we can not dodge the point, if there's a way that we can explain anything more fully, I'm all for it. I'd love to do it.
As Zaggy here says, 99.9% of the hobby trusts you guys. Of course, you need to trust the founders in order to trust any data tool. I trust you guys. I think it's all good, but it's that 0.1% that are just, even if they read the white paper and Triple C wants to know, is it available to the public? He can't find it. So quick, yes or no, is it available to the public? The white paper?
I mean, technically the link is public, but it's inside the app, which is for pro members. But I mean, you could just share it, right?
So it can be shared. So
why can't you get it, COVID card collector? Are you not a paying member of the app?
Get a free trial. We do offer a 7-day free trial for those thirsty to read a white paper about a product that they're not using.
But that's the other. I guess that's it. And it's the 1%, the 0.1% that Zaggy here refers to. They're probably not going to understand the white paper anyway. So I don't, and to understand what it is that you're doing, because let's just face it, a portion of people just won't understand it because it is some, you need to be sophisticated. I believe I have a level of sophistication and intelligence to understand any white paper, never mind the card ladder white paper. Okay, let's keep going here. Justin says, if these guys didn't own cards, someone would come and say they don't have skin in the game. That's of course they would. It's a very good point. Tampa agrees. Yeah, you can't win either way. Very true. Card Porn says, can we talk about some cards? What fun things did we see at the National? I mean, we can. You got throw a couple out there, guys.
Grant having the Jordan essential credentials out of 72 was very tempting and amazing to see that card sitting out. I love that freaking card. That I couldn't believe it. Like, not only could I believe that there was one on the floor, but it was literally in our booth with us, taunting me the whole time.
Yeah, the 1-of-1 LeBron Ultimate at the Golden booth was, I mean, that's my number one card of all time ever created. Just, my personal opinion. So to see that in person was pretty insane. Yeah, Grant had really nice stuff at our booth. Man, so many cards. I saw there was I mentioned in a crossover, but someone had a second year Mahomes cracked ice on card auto. I didn't even know that card existed, and I was like, this card is freaking sweet. That they still do the autos on the cracked ice contenders in the second year. I want one of those. Someone had a really nice Penny Hardaway setup. I thought was impressive. I usually don't see a lot of that. Justin and John and Kramer had a really sweet three-person table with just amazing stuff, all types of high-end Jordan autos and Kobe and LeBron stuff, and Duncan. I think I saw a Duncan green PMG, Penny green PMG, and then also my Penny green PMG, the credentials Jordan. I saw a Jordan Rubies, a PMG red Jordan. It's all this crazy stuff that, it's kind of cool to see in person.
All right. Good stuff. Wow. I just can't keep up with the comments. This happens sometimes when I have great guests on the show. So, and I just want to thank everybody for joining. Thank you for joining the show. If you're new to Sports Cards Live, hit that thumbs up. If you're enjoying this, if you're not enjoying this, hit the thumbs up. But be sure to subscribe. I put on the upcoming episodes down here, going up through the next couple of weeks, and I can tell you that the episodes are not going to stop. Lots of great guests coming right through the end of the year. It's only going to get better. So let's see if we can find any other good comments here, because as I've mentioned, I've lost them in chunks today because you guys are so on fire there. Frankie says, even though I didn't have the card ladder value at National, Frankie, it's called the National, not Nationals. Only because we're friends will I correct you. It's called the National. Having the sales history and last sale price date info was incredibly effective in making decisions for my pickup. So there's someone who used it and enjoyed it. And Frankie, you're just a good dude overall, guys. Check out the episode with Frankie. He owns a card shop in San Juan, Puerto Rico called Collections, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Very awesome. Very awesome. What else do we got here, guys? Rage says card ladder is a pocket roundabout guide like the Kelly Blue Book of the hobby, which is, I think, for vehicles, not the Holy Bible. People stop it, use your own research, and stop being lazy before you hate on the next man. Fair comment. Michael Coleman in the house. Is that Coleman?
Yes, it is. I can tell by the intimidating, handsome image.
The hair and the icon threw me off, Coleman, but he says, you mean I don't have to get free appraisals on cards anymore? Exactly. Criminal Mind says, Jeremy, I'd just like to ask tough questions. If we all trusted our politicians, we'd all be in trouble. These guys aren't politicians, though, but okay. You be you, Criminal Mind. You be you. That's fine. Cards to Car, welcome back to the show. Jordan Hudson says, one thing that no one ever says is they could have built the ladder and kept it quiet, never told anyone, probably made more money by using the data and less headache. Possibly. Jahan says Chris is a nerd who wanted to nerd out on cards, basically. Yeah, that's right. Chris, we're all proud to be nerds in this room. I think that's just the way it is. Guilty as charged. Zaggy loves the thinking there, Chris. That's next level stuff. Indices are immensely helpful. Good stuff. DR says, I read the white paper this evening, and I would ask you guys to put a stronger qualitative section for those of us that aren't as big on quantitative methods. A mixed methods document would be nice. Maybe a fair comment.
It is, except every single calculation came with an illustration. Every single one. So if there's like a math formula that's laid out that says, here's how this is being calculated, then it's followed with a tangible example to illustrate it, because I'm also ironically more of a qualitative thinker than a quantitative thinker. So I know the power of examples. So maybe give it another look through and see if the examples help, because if they don't, I'm not quite sure how to make it more qualitative.
Good. Flipping Steve in the house. If you're still here, this comment is 20 minutes old, but Flipping Steve still has my sticker on I didn't put that on there, Steve. We were at the Lowe's Hotel during that big trade night that happened, Filmington's organized event. And actually, the personal finance ad, Dustin's wife, took one of my logo stickers and stuck it on Flipping Steve's card case. And he told me he was going to keep it there. So, Steve, that's an honor. I'm glad that you still have it on your case. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, buddy. And great to meet you at the show. Guys, check out his channel. He does great lives regularly as well. DeLon says, how come there's so much negativity nowadays? It's because people don't like themselves for the most part, DeLon. But he says, I'm pretty slow, dude, but can you pick up? I'm pretty slow, dude, but can pick up negativity. Is it money jamming people? I've noticed a lot of negativity besides sports cards, usually my lane. But all right, yeah. It's because people get depressed, especially during pandemics and stuff. It's a tough time for a lot of people. And I think to a large degree, I'm sort of taking the position now where I just want these guys to get happy. I just want you guys to work through your issues and get happy. I wish you all well, for sure. Tyson Lee says the card ladder 50 just stands for the top 50 cards, no different from the stock market. It's an indice. They're not trying to manipulate anything, but just running. Give the guys, but just I don't understand the end of that, Tyson, but thank you. Card porn, what were the best things you saw at the National, both in cards and other companies? That's a good question. I'm going to bring this one up. There's a new company out there. They're doing crowdsourced grading. They're called CardScore. Did either of you guys see CardScore's booth? And what do you know about it? And what do anyone want to talk about what your first impressions are about CardScore?
Jeremy, maybe you could talk about the booth a little bit because I didn't get to go to that booth.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So, but are you familiar with what they're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So CardScore, they had a booth there. What CardScore is, it's a crowdsourced grading platform where you scan in your card and it is sent to their pool of graders who are throughout the hobby. I think every card is graded by 50 different CardScore graders. And I even read that, actually, I picked up their documentation here. They had a whole thing that explains kind of what they're up to, and explains how, basically it says, what is CardScore? How do I submit cards? Raw cards, how do cards get scored? Professionally graded cards. And then they even talk about how the graders who grade closer to the mean will get more opportunities to grade more cards because they are more accurate. I thought that was really cool. I think it's a pretty interesting business idea. I talked one-on-one with the founder of the company, real smart guy, a tech guy who basically said everything is being crowdsourced nowadays except the hobby. Why not the hobby? His comment was, why do I have to send my cards to California to find out what condition they're in and what they're worth? I thought it was an interesting take. But basically, you scan your card, it goes out, and you get a score back, and there's a way to marry the score to the actual card. So, but really high level, it's crowdsourced grading, and I believe that eye appeal is going to be the most important factor because these people aren't able to take the card and kind of do this to really see it. So what were your thoughts on what you know about this so far? Josh, you want to jump in?
Yeah, it'd be really hard to grade surface because, like you said, the only real way to grade surface is to get your hands on it. And I know for sure that the people at PSA actually, I'm told they don't wear gloves because they actually need to get their fingers on it. They have to actually feel the surface and feel if there's imperfections or dimples and stuff. So you won't be able to get 100% accuracy on the surface grade for sure, which makes it tough. And then my next question is, let's say you get the grade back. Now what? You still have to send it in to get it slabbed and professionally authenticated anyways. You might actually be pissed if you got a third party telling you it's a 10 and then you get a 9, right?
They're mostly doing graded cards. I think that they are bringing, I have to read it again, but I think raw cards maybe they're introducing soon. So it's really another one of these sort of eye appeal assessment, similar to the Mike Baker, similar to the PWCC assessments that they give for the various degrees of eye appeal. So basically it's another way to determine what the hobby would consider to be strong for the grade, average, or weak for the grade. That's my understanding. Sorry, Josh, when you were speaking, I was slightly distracted as I often am. So I don't know if I just contradicted or said what you just did, but maybe just providing a little bit more light on it. Chris, anything from you on this?
No, I think you guys summed it up, but it looks like their presentation is impressive. They're super serious about what they're doing. And look, if there's an overwhelming demand for something that just doesn't have enough supply right now, it's grading. Reliable, trustworthy grading. So really exciting to see people making innovations in that field.
And I can let everybody know, the audience, the chat, and you guys, that the founder of the company will be on this show in the near future. So he's agreed to come on, and I'm looking forward to having him. And he'll be able to explain it in much more articulation than I've been able to. So look forward to that coming up before the end of the year for sure. Okay, Zaggy says CL50 is a nice sample of the entire market. All sports, arrows, and card companies, and probably representative of what their users own. That's a good point. What their users own is going to be important because really you have customers. This is for your customers for sure. Shaw Carr says Jeremy has the haters in a mental pretzel. Thank you, Shaw. Thank you, Shaw. Thank you, Shaw. Well, one of the reasons for that is because I sleep well at night, guys. I sleep well at night, and that's it. It's just easier. It's easy to go to bed at night for me. David Owen says Chris needs to learn how to delegate, maybe to get some more sleep, I think is what he's saying there. Jahan speaking to Coleman. When I type Michael, Jordan automatically pops up after my name in searches. That's funny. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Noonan Cardboard says, Ziggy, stop hiding behind Triple C. Yeah, I'm starting to wonder that myself. Yeah, Triple C is very close to a permanent ban on my channel, just because I like sophisticated people in my audience, and most of my audience is quite sophisticated and respectful. So, but hey, we've had the odd non on the show too. We have. It's it's a numbers game, right? Just like anything, it's a numbers game. DR says, so should I just think about Card Ladder as a starting point for conversation? I mean, really, Card Ladder is so much more than just the cards, the new feature and the score. There's a lot of more. There's many more things there. But Chris, why don't you just speak to that briefly, Chris? Please, briefly.
DR, would love for you to start conversations about Card Ladder any and everywhere you go. Thank you.
It also has a ton of raw data. Like if you're just looking for the graphs and the last sold and just the raw data points, there's a ton of that as well.
Yeah, CS makes a great observation that Chris does take the high, because Chris is a respectful guy. He takes that and thinks about things thoughtfully. Amazing. I wish I could process as quickly as Chris does. Yeah, very thoughtful and always respectful as well, more so than myself, probably. Johnny says, what grading companies are included in the Card Ladder database? That's a good question.
SGC, PSA, BGS, and everybody's favorite RAW.
That's I've heard of that one. That's Carvin's grading company, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Right.
Jordan Hudson says, here's the bottom line of whoever doesn't like Card Ladder or Sports Card Investor, go build your own effing data tool, not directed at anyone in particular, just overall. It really is as simple as that, right? Like no one's forcing you to use these things. If you don't like them, and I mean, I'm not going to speak about market movers and Sports Card Investor right now because Jeff Wilson isn't on the show right now. We have the guys from Card Ladder here, but if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. And if you don't understand it, you don't have to be negative about it. If you are negative about it, you probably don't understand it because you haven't taken the time to read the very transparent explanations about everything. And even that said, if you don't like it and you have a gripe, talk about it. Even Carlos from Because I'm Carlos, he will have on his show Chris on to talk about it, and he's often very difficult on you when you've been on a show. So you guys aren't ducking from this stuff, which says a lot right there.
Jeremy, isn't it isn't it exciting that there's drama and controversy around the quantitative methodology of pricing sports cards? Of all the things to stir the emotions of collectors, the fact that this is the topic that does lets me know that I am among my people.
Well, yeah, see, there you are. And it's because
crazy people.
It's because there's money involved, and it's big money these days, right? That's why there's all this drama involved and all this skepticism. But as you've said, the skepticism is healthy. We do need it. It helps keep you guys accountable, right? Because as soon as you slip, someone's going to find it and call you out. And the fact that I don't think it's happened yet speaks volumes about what you're doing and the transparency and the integrity. And I mean, just knowing you, the integrity never comes into question for me.
I appreciate that. I feel the same way about you, by the way. And I don't think there's a person on the face of the earth who can process comments and reply to them as quickly and with as much wit and mirth as you do. But the only thing I would add here is that also it just makes our job more fun, and it makes the topic way more interesting, and it makes our product Card Ladder seem more interesting when there's somebody on the other side of a new feature that we've rolled out that's pretty sophisticated and pretty esoteric. I think people are more interested in hearing us explain what the Card Ladder value is or how the price check feature works if there's somebody who hates it, because then it's oh, this is interesting. What two sides are there to this? Whereas if we just come out and say, oh, look at this, we have a white paper, here's the math, player indexes, total market indexes, divisor, prediction, people's eyes roll into the back of their heads. But when there's somebody who's I hate this, and then we're well, here's how this works, I think it makes it way more engaging. It makes for better content. So it is good. It is good that there are sides to these discussions. It's much better than the alternative, which is that we're just doing boring math that no one cares about.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Makes sense.
I would
Joe
love to
says,
just
yeah.
program the app and you guys leave me alone, but
What's
you
that,
guys-
Josh?
I would love to just program on the app and everyone leave me alone, but that's never going to happen.
No, not as long as you're in the hobby. Joe says, how about everyone use Card Ladder before you judge the product? It works very well. Give it a try. Otherwise, how can you speak against something you have never used? Mr. LAGN, I've been using Card Ladder for over a year. It's very useful for the price, and it is mind-blowing how many new features are continually added. Waxel says, do you want a tool that shows you what a specific card sells for? That's the whole point. Jahan says, nobody is a Rain Man. Yeah, you can't recall. I don't understand the comment, but thank you, Jahan. DR says, how far in advance does Card Ladder try to predict the value with a predictive pricing tool? I read the white paper. It's a Google document. I think it's hard for people to understand without paying. Okay. How far in advance does Card Ladder try to predict the value? I don't. Is he asking, are you trying to predict what the value will be 6 months from now?
No, it doesn't do that at all. We don't. It's not doing any future predictions right now.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Hey, Joe C, what is happening? Welcome to the show. Zed in the house. Good evening, Zed420. Cam, good to see you. Andy says, predicted value is important. If we only went by previous comp for every sale, the prices of cards would never change. I've been saying that too.
Wow.
Andy's no dummy. I mean, if we only went by the previous comp, that goes to the activity card shows too. If you're only willing to sell for the last comp, or even better, if you're only willing to buy at the last comp, prices would never move. It'd be one price. Imagine the Beckett annual being the price for the whole year. Like, what fun is that? And it's just not reflective of an actual marketplace, right? These prices move minute to minute over the breadth of the whole hobby. Josh, did you have something to jump in with?
No, I mean, yeah, I just really like the way he wrapped that up into a very eloquent statement. I mean, if you just think about like a specific example, like the PSA 10 Fleer, and it sells for 500 grand and everyone's all excited about that and that's what it's worth. And then it goes a month without selling. And in between that sale, there's like 20 sales of the PSA 9 and the PSA 9 just keeps going down. Everyone expects that the PSA 10 will follow suit and also go down. So why not automate that, build systems around that sort of activity and try to predict what the PSA 10 will do. And then we can all be more educated.
Yeah. Hockey with a nice comment. From what I can tell, there's little content out hating on Card Ladder. There appears to be a loud vocal minority. That is it. It appears people just want to discuss cards in YouTube. Yeah, actually, it's funny. Today, like half a dozen people brought to my attention about this loud vocal minority. I don't pay attention to it, but apparently there is some out there. And again, those people, I just hope they work through their issues and find happiness in their world. Really, that's all. It's just sad. It's just sad. But you know, not everybody lives productive and you know, positive lives. That's just the way the world is. But anyway, let's see. We're at the hour 30 mark. First of all, I'll just say if either of you guys are tired, you want to drop off, like don't feel you have to stay here for me. Or the audience, I'll speak for them as well here, but I'm good to keep going if you guys are. Thumbs up, thumbs down, keep going. All right, we're having a good time. Let's see if we can find any other wonderful or not. They don't have to be wonderful comments. We'll take the tough ones too. We will definitely take the tough ones too. Zach, I'm not gonna bring up that one. Frankie says you are correct. The National, yes, thank you, Frankie.
Nice.
Toa says, you know what's worse than the S on Nationals? When people say the Miami Heats. There you go, Toa. You know it. And Frankie gets it. And Frankie and I, we're like this, so I can let him know.
Every time I see someone say Nationals on Instagram, I'm like, Jeremy's gonna find that. You better be careful posting that on the internet.
It's like someone, you know, it's like the Nationals. The Nationals is like where you go to play in a baseball tournament. Is it not?
You said a cheerleading competition. That was my favorite. You're like, that's a cheerleading competition.
Right. This is a card show called the National. It's not the Nationals. There's nothing plural about it. It's one show once a year. All right. Let's see what else you guys in the audience have, because we are going strong with the audience tonight. It's been great. Thank you, everybody, so much. Tyson says the computer program runs the numbers. You think Chris is going to want to go back through it and change it? Hell no. Hell no. No manipulation. It's programmed. Yeah, I mean, okay. I think we beat that one to death. But thank you, Tyson. Vintage Card says, thanks all three of you guys. Nice. Like to see passionate collectors earning some bucks serving our hobby. Well, that speaks to those two, at least. I've had some cards do well for me, but I saw someone said something like Jeremy is laughing all the way to the bank, making. I've sold very few cards in the last year, but I do have to sell some cards now to replenish the money I spent at the National.
There you go.
Yeah, right. I rarely, if ever, have to do that. I'm just going to read a comment that COVID Card Collector wrote and try and determine if they're welcome to still be a member of this channel. Basically asking Chris if you were card porn. Quentin says that it would be nice if you had a feature to buy cards for me, then sell them at a higher price later for me, and then just send me a check in the mail. That would be nice for all of us.
Why
right?
hasn't anybody thought of that one yet?
I think you're looking for star stock.
Exactly. All right. They have Jordan here is talking about Card Score. They have like a little, so this Card Score that we were talking about before, they're actually putting their kiosks into card shops around the United States right now, where people can go in and have their cards scored. So I think we got to see more on this, but again, we're going to have the owner on, or the founder, I should say. I think he's also the owner, to come on and talk a bit more about that for sure. Zaggy Yes says, haha, my cousin is a cancer, incapable of moving on. I don't know who your cousin is, but I hope your cousin recovers from whatever ails him for sure. Noonan says, stop, Triple C, you are Ziggy. Who's Ziggy? Anyone who can't see that is blind. I wonder if that's the case. But if that's the case, Noonan, I got to figure out who Ziggy is, and if that's the fact, then we'll just have to eliminate them because they need help, I would think. Justin says, can you guys share on the card ladder index how cards coming into and out of the index doesn't impact the historical returns?
Oh, there's a Chris question. Look at him. He's all excited.
Yeah, I can't follow that. I'm not smart enough to follow the question, but
Chris knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, no, it's just because this happens with stock indexes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A stock comes in, a stock splits, it has to be recalibrated. But we've never changed any cards in the CL50. And if we did, we'd sit down and think about how we would deal with that. But I think we'd probably just retroactively calculate a new index going back to day one. I don't know though. That's an interesting question, but we've never encountered that. We don't intend on changing the cards that comprise the CL50. Now, if you're talking about total market player indexes, that's an interesting question too, because all the time we're adding new cards of new players. And so Josh built out a very sophisticated back end to this that allows every player's total market index is recalculated every day. And if new cards come into the system, the calculations for the all-time index performance of that card are recalculated. So the index is recalibrated each time a new card gets added the following day. So that's how that works. And then, or if the question is about what happens if, I don't think this is it, but maybe it is, what happens if and this is detailed in the white paper, what happens if a player's total market index, it goes back to, let's say 2005, but they only had one card that sold in 2005. Then they have three that sold in 2006. Because the thing is, every time a card records a new sale, it will cause a distortion in the index unless you use a divisor in the denominator of the function in order to preserve the value of the index before and after the addition of a new data point. So let's not go into that right now, but it's in the white paper, and it's actually very important methodologically to making sure that the index is not receiving distortions in the database on the first sale of a card.
And if anyone in the chat understood what Chris just said, please raise your hand and you have my respect. Yeah. Well, Josh does because he has to code the stuff. So of course
Josh coded it quite well.
I had to listen to Chris talk about it for an hour.
So D-Nick says regarding card score, so it's another MBA, except MBA is just like Mike Baker, who was a professional grader. So he's one person, whereas card score is a collective of crowdsourced graders. So I think it's a bit different. Jake says, so it's basically letting you know if the card may have been undergraded, yes, or overgraded. But if that's the case, you may try to detach it from your card because who's going to want to do that, but you never know. DR says, is card ladder more for raw or graded cards? Sounds like I need to look up a tutorial to really grasp what you all do. Yeah, one thing I want to just say at the outset, or not at the outset, but at this point right now, is that I'll take the responsibility on myself that I didn't really at the beginning lay out what, for anyone who didn't know, what card ladder really does and the various functions that it offers. So that's on me here. But yeah, DR, you should take a tutorial. I recommend you just go do their free trial and give it some time in there. Go do that. I think that'll probably help you out. Flipping Steve says, I believe Tampa Card Shop has a card score machine already in their shop. First one in Florida.
Nice.
There you go. Thank you, Flipping Steve, for that information. For sure. Jordan says, don't put that sophisticated juju on me, not in my house. Waxel says, CL Card Ladder is a great place to source all the latest YouTube videos so I don't miss any. Yeah, they do a great feed, sharing mostly quality content creators for sure. Bob's Big Boy, anyone going to the Wisconsin Dells show August 20 to 22nd, 450 plus dealer tables, and PSA has confirmed they will be there. I'm going to show, I brought this home from the National because I just love dealing with Tim and Lorena, who are two of the organizers. It is going to be, as you can see, August 20, 21, 22 in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. At the Kalahari Resort and Convention Center. This might be the most comfortable card show you'll ever go to. I've never been, but plush red carpet is going to make it much more enjoyable than any other card show you've ever been to in terms of just your physical comfort. Bob says, when will someone create an algorithm on future card value? That's dangerous territory. I think, how can you, it's tough to do. You need to bring so many factors. Chris, I see you're wide-eyed. How impossible is that, or how possible is it?
Well, you already laid the groundwork for getting a little deep and going beyond sports cards and into psychology earlier in this episode. So let me do the same thing. So go down the rabbit hole of philosophy very briefly. Right. The science of prediction is one of the most fascinating academic subjects you could ever study. The philosophy of science, if you've never taken a class on it, take it, because this is really what it deals with. So you have like a discipline like chemistry, where in chemistry, one of the hallmarks of knowledge is being able to say, I'm going to combine these different elements, and then the other side of the equation, I can predict it with certainty. As long as I know all the relevant variables going in, I can predict with certainty the outcome. With the social sciences and human behavior, the endeavor to be able to predict with certainty becomes very difficult, in large part because all the variables are not known. But in theory, if one subscribes to the belief that science is a cause and effect line of reasoning that ultimately works if you know all the variables, then in theory, you should eventually be able to predict human behavior. You should be able to predict it because you theoretically could know every variable that's at play. But that makes people very uncomfortable, myself included, because that does away with the concept of free will. So if you can predict human behavior, then we don't have free will. Every part of our experience, even the conscious thoughts that we're experiencing, are all predetermined. We just don't know all the variables to be able to predict them properly. Okay, so I just laid the groundwork there for why it's a scary idea to talk about predicting human behavior, and I'm going to tie it in like this. Auction prices in sports cards is human behavior. It's humans deciding what they're going to pay for something. If we could predict prices going into the future of sports cards, it's tantamount to saying that we can predict human behavior, which is tantamount to saying we don't have free will, which invokes all sorts of deep philosophical questions that are really interesting that I've thought about for many, many years. But it's a very weird and scary proposition to think about the fact that we could predict human behavior. But there are entire wings of universities called the social sciences, whether it's economics, whether it's sociology, that have professors and academics in them that are dedicated to trying to model and forecast human behavior. It's an endeavor that people will never give up. As Milton Friedman once articulately laid out, you don't need to have a model that perfectly reflects society or that perfectly reflects the variables. What matters is the model accurate over time? So maybe you could do forecasting of sports card prices, but it would be quite the accomplishment. You would succeed where many of the most brightest minds in the history of human existence have failed, if you are able to successfully predict human behavior going into the future.
Well said. Well said. I'm not going to summarize. Others have done that for us. So let's go to a couple of those. Frankie says there are too many variables to consider when predicting anything future. There's no way to account for all things. Well said. Well said. Rage says future value is a no-no as a guide. Cool concrete. No, because a computer doesn't have a brain or heart. Jordan Riker says, I thought I was relatively sophisticated until listening to Chris and Josh for a couple hours. I no longer think this. I think you might not be alone in that, Jordan. Toa says, as a hobby, we need to start providing more content on how people can make their own decisions instead of shortcuts. Be accountable to yourself. It's your money. Research and make your own decision. Very, very well said. All, the card ladder tool, the various features in card ladder, the other products that are out there, use them if you want. Use them as one of the sources of information you're going to use to make your own decision. I think that's all you're really trying to provide. Anyway, nothing tells somebody what to do. It's just information based on data that is vetted by trustworthy individuals. That is my personal take on it. My personal take, because I consider you guys trustworthy. I'm not going to speak for everyone else, but as someone said earlier, 99.9% of the hobby who knows you trusts you guys. And I think that's really, really important to consider. Okay. Oh boy, I've scrolled to the bottom of the comments. I think it's the first time. Oh, here's a good one. Rock Latex says, Chris makes Filmington's answers sound as short as Greg Popovich's. Yeah, Filmington can articulate too. He had a few diatribes on my show a couple weeks ago, but he's a cool cat. I call him a cool cat. Card Porn says, people used to always complain that Beckett magazine prices were outdated as soon as the latest issue came out. I think that's still the case, actually. The companies producing this data now are much more up to date and is a good thing. But to Beckett, they do have the online version, which is really where you got to be these days. The magazine, I think, is more for convenience to carry around with you if you don't have access to the internet, perhaps, or it's just good reading material. Sometimes there's some good reading material, I'll say, because I used to like it back in the day when there were actually a lot of editorial, but I found that the editorial has been reduced in recent, probably over the past 10 years. Okay, Jordan, I haven't read this yet, but Jordan's going to change the topic. Let's see what he says. Chris and Josh, what are your favorite new parallels or inserts from the last year or two? Let's start with you, Josh.
Parallels or inserts. I do like the Nebula. I know that maybe isn't the last. I'm not sure when that started, but I do like the Nebula as a parallel. Inserts. The Kaboom's pretty cool. I enjoy the Kaboom. I'm not a really big fan of all the inserts. Even from the 90s stuff, I'm more of a parallel guy, so I tend to focus more on the parallels. And I like my parallels simple, so you're not going to get like a very interesting answer from me. I like the gold prisms and I like the silvers, and I like to keep it simple.
Before we go to you, Chris, I just want to jump in. There's one card. This is not new. It's from 96, I think. But the card that I laid my eyes on at the National that I've been obsessing about is the class of 96 Kobe and the Allen Iverson. I saw but I've been obsessing over that card. I love it's embossed. He's popping out of the card. To your point, Josh, about a clean, simple card. The background is it's got that like off-white, creamy color to it, yet it's very smooth, almost acetate-y. What do you guys think of that card, personally? Josh, you go first because I saw you nodding.
I'm looking the card up.
How about you? So, Chris, why don't you answer the Jordan's question and then let me know what you think about the class of 96?
Oh, yeah.
Card.
The class of 96 is gorgeous. We have the Kobe and card ladder. It looks freaking awesome.
It reminds me of, there's a Panini one that kind of looks like this. Not the Color Blast. There's like another LeBron that I'm thinking that has like the all white background.
Blank slate.
Yes, that one. It looks pretty similar to that. I like that style.
Yeah, that card has been, but the embossment on it,
yes,
and the full body shot popping off the card. I'm in the market. If anyone has I'm looking for like a PSA 9, maybe a BGS 9.5. I might even consider an SGC 9 or 10, 9.5 or 10. I'm in the market for one of those cards. It spoke to me. You know what that, you know what that having a card just speaks to you, and it's Kobe Bryant, and it's beautiful, and it's not five figures. Like, it's just what a great looking card.
PSA 9's only $600 bucks.
$600. Hook me up. I'll pay it. I'll pay $600. That's an offer. The first person who messages me, I'll send you $600 for that card.
There's a bunch on eBay.
Okay, there we go. I'm going to go buy one. All right, Chris, did you answer Jordan's question yet?
Josh mentioned Nebula. Side note, the Trae Young 2018 Prism Nebula PSA 10 sold for $401,000 tonight after buyer's premium. That was like probably the most shocking sale of the night on the golden auctions that ended tonight. Remember, just lots still end tomorrow night too. But $401,000 for a Trae Young Prism Nebula 1 of 1 PSA 10 is amazing. For me, it's just really simple. I don't know about anything new that came out in the last year or two, but I like anything 1 of 1. Anything 1 of 1 to me is tantamount to in the 90s what the PMGs and the Rubies were, because every player, football, basketball, Panini, I'm speaking about Panini here, but any player has hundreds of 1 of 1s from their rookie year and dozens, if not hundreds, in future years. So they are not as limited as they might seem being 1 of 1s. And you've got, in any given year, you've got maybe half a dozen Nebula 1 of 1s. Maybe you got the Prism, you got the Spectra, you've got the Optic. And so I like 1 of 1s. I think 1 of 1s will eventually prove to be what the PMGs were and the Rubies and stuff were to the 90s. I think 1 of 1s are going to be to this era once it all shakes out. So anything 1 of 1, I really like.
I'll just slightly disagree. Not anything 1 of 1, because there are some butt ugly 1 of 1s that do hit the market, and butt ugly is kind of eye appeals is the most important thing to me. Scarcity, rarity, definitely too. And printing plates have 1 of 1 on them. They're kind of the low end of the 1 of 1 spectrum. But I hear what you're saying, Chris, and I think there are special ones, right? There are, like you talk about the Nebulas, there are the gold vinyls. There are definitely special 1 of 1s, but there are some unspecial ones. Would you agree?
Totally agree. Let me amend my statement. The only 1 of 1s that I look at or like are non-autograph, non-memorabilia, non-printing plate. I like pure cardboard 1 of 1s, and if you stick to just the pure cardboard 1 of 1s from the nice products, odds are very high you're going to land on a cool card.
All right. Agree. DR, do you guys see yourselves as a targeted acquisition for eBay or maybe somebody else? Brian Gray said on the last show that everyone is wide open for business this year.
I mean, so here's the thing about a question like that one, which, the question asker probably knows, and most other people probably know, but maybe they don't. Any time that an acquisition may or may not be in place between any two entities, one of the first steps in that potential transaction is going to be a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA. So no matter what way an entity like us or any other hobby business would want to go about making a public statement with respect to an acquisition, no matter what is actually happening, the answer is always going to have to be no comment. So that's not going to be illustrative. It's not going to be insightful. But, anytime a business owners are going to encounter a question like that, the answer is going to have to be no or no comments. And it's not going to be insightful because you don't know. Is there an NDA governing that? Is there not? You just don't know. So all we can say on that question is no comment.
So I'll let you end it there. I'm just going to say that and I know nothing here, but oftentimes if there is nothing going on, then the business owner can say, no, there's nothing going on. I'll leave it at that, because I think there's obviously there's lots of discussion going on with many companies right now. And I think myself that you guys would be a wonderful target for whomever. I don't know who, but you guys would be a wonderful comment. And if it does happen now or in the future, congratulations, pre-congratulations if it does ever happen. That'd be great. Then hopefully you guys can just chase your grails for the rest of your lives. Okay. Jahan says here, they would be bored with nothing to do if they sold. Doubt they would let anyone control the app like Ken Runs Golden. Ken, if you're watching, good evening to you. Global Card Investor says, can you please make an algorithm to predict when people are going to speak negatively about the hobby? Yeah, it's all the time. It's happening right now. For sure.
Figured it out.
Yeah, the algorithm is now, somewhere out there on some social media platform. It's happening for sure. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up soon. I'll just run through, see if is there anything else that either of you guys want to talk about? Anything that we didn't discuss that you had wanted to?
No, I think we hit them all. Maybe, potentially we touched on the Trae Young, but like a couple of the golden auctions might be of interest to folks. I don't know if I don't know if you and Brian like got in depth on those, but there's some pretty interesting auctions.
He bought one card on Golden tonight. He bought the Jeter PSA 9. He was very pleased with it for 10,200. Said it was
He let out like a Ric Flair. He's like, "Whoa!" He's like,
Yeah,
"I'm feeling good."
He was extremely happy about it. Yeah. Let's see what Bob's big boy says. Would love to see a vault-style card business model that incorporates sports betting elements where users can wager cards based on actual game spreads. Cardboard Casino already has a gaming license. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what that looks like. I don't gamble much, but I'd be interested to see what that looks like. David French says, I want to see a product maybe called Perpendicular that is all inserts and one base card per pack. That's interesting. Actually, Upper Deck did one in hockey called Synergy that you didn't even get a base card per pack. It was kind of, you did. You got parallels, but they weren't necessarily just the base. The base was the chase in that particular product, but I know that's not what you're getting at, big boy, but oh my God, these comments, you guys, on fire tonight, on fire. I see a comment from, let's see, where to go. Joe Perot, there's Joe, says, question for Chris, Luka, a Maverick forever?
Luka might not even be a Maverick in a few years. So Mark Cuban, Dirk Nowitzki, and Jason Kidd are I think in the air right now, flying to Slovenia to meet with Luka to get him to sign the Supermax rookie extension that he has not signed, even though he's been eligible to sign it for over a week. His reasoning was that he's playing in the Olympics and he's not focusing on the NBA right now. But what is there to discuss? And why do those three guys have to fly halfway across the world to get him to sign it? So I don't know, but he's probably going to sign the Supermax extension just because it's such a lucrative thing, and he can always ask for a trade later if he wants that. And then he wouldn't be leaving the Mavericks high and dry because then the other team has to send back somebody of equal value. But look, if the Mavericks don't start figuring out roster construction and doing a better job than they've done so far in this offseason, I think that his days in Dallas will be numbered.
Yeah. Rage likes the Galactics. The Galactics are pretty popular. So isn't it Brett is it Brett collecting the Galactics from Stacking Slabs? He went on a 101 binge recently on something like that. I think it was the Galactics. Tampa doesn't count printing plates either. That's good. Hockey says, not that it matters at the end of the day, but there doesn't seem to be many chase cards anymore. It seems like the funnest and best stuff are SP, gold, silver cards, which can be many. I mean, last decade there were plenty. I'm thinking about like some awesome hockey products that Upper Deck had put out. But I mean, again, I'm talking hockey, so I know that doesn't appeal to the whole audience for sure. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up shortly. I'm just going to see if there's anything else in the comments that I want to bring up at this point in time. Rock Latex says, I honestly don't know why Beckett is not in card ladder space. Should have been there 5 years ago. Oz Card Dad agrees with card porn. 400 and 1,000 is too much for a Trae Young card of any sort, I think. Craig says the PSA group will buy card ladder next year. Jahan is enjoying the chat. Toa says Beckett as a company has been behind, period. They don't change. I mean, I got to tell you, I like the guy. I love the guys. Like Jeremy Murray's a wicked dude. Obviously, Eric Norton's an awesome guy. Like, there's some great people there. Hopefully, the hobby sentiment changes on them soon, and their reputation to those whom it's tainted feel differently in the future. Okay, guys. Why are my legit questions being ignored? I don't know. Oscar Dad, only because there's like 1,000 comments coming and I just can't catch them all. So sorry, not excluding you on purpose. That's for sure. Jake, great hanging you way beyond my bedtime. Good night, Jake. Have a great sleep. All right. That's it, guys. I can't even read these comments anymore. There's just two. Oh, the last one. Charles says, fascinating educational discussion. Hi, gents. I learned a lot. Thanks. Thank you, Charles Smith. Great to see you as always. Tampa says, who is buying cards like Young for 401,000? Do you guys have any idea if it was an individual or one of the new? We can't know yet, Tampa, but if it's a fractional company or somebody wants to come out and talk about it, like we saw with the Jordan PSA 10 PWCC that did 800 grand, that buyer came out like that later that night. So maybe we'll find out. Maybe we know by now. Who knows?
Lamine James bought it.
Maybe Lamine James bought it. Andy, thank you so much for joining. Great to see you, my guy. Toa says we made Jeremy tap out. Yeah, I'm tapping out. All right, guys, I'm going to turn off the comments so I can't see them anymore because I just have to do that at this point in time. Otherwise, I'm going to be distracted. Josh and Chris, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for taking the tough questions from the chat. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the experience tonight. We are just shy of 2 hours. To the chat, guys, thank you everybody for joining tonight. If you're new to the show, thanks for joining Sports Cards Live. This is the late show. I call it After Hours. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. We've had upcoming episodes on the bottom there. Some more great episodes coming up. I'm going to quickly put on the bottom here. If you are not yet following Josh and Chris on Instagram, there are their Instagram handles. Their app is called Card Ladder. You can find it at cardladder.com, and there is the app as well. Check it out. Check out their 7-day free trial, I believe it is. Is that what it is, 7 days, Chris? Yeah. Yep. Check out their 7-day free trial if you have not yet. And I'm sure there's a Card Ladder affiliate out there somewhere who you might want to do that through. Feel free to find one and do it through them, or just go ahead and do it. Without that, final comments from you, Josh. Do you want to say goodbye? Please do.
No, I was just going to say thank you to you, Jeremy. I think you're doing a great job with the show. And like Chris said, you're the best in the biz at reading the comments and keeping everyone engaged and having a fair platform. So thanks again.
Appreciate that, Josh. Thank you for joining. Chris, final goodbyes from you, and we'll be done.
Yep. Thank you for having us, Jeremy. Thank you for providing the opportunity to talk about the new features. I imagine it's not super interesting from the host's point of view to get into the weeds of, numbers and white papers and stuff like that. But you still, you take 2 hours out of your night to have us on and come talk to it. And you have one of the very best audiences in sports cards. So thank you I even saw somebody in the chat say they signed up for Card Ladder Pro during this interview, which was fantastic. So
nice.
Really appreciate you, man.
Well, that's cool. I missed that one, but congrats on that. And I think it just speaks to when people give you a chance and get to know you guys by watching a show like this and hearing you speak. And it's just natural. It's just natural that's going to happen. So kudos to that chat member. Thank you guys for joining. To the chat, thank you guys so much. I see the final comments. I'm not going to go through them because it's been I've done 6 hours of streaming today. So to the podcast listeners, you're going to get three episodes this week. I'm sure you're not going to get through them all, but if you can, great. Listen to 1.5 speed at least. Thanks everybody for joining. You guys hang tight 1 second. Everybody else, good night. We'll see you back here next Saturday. Have a great week ahead. Stay happy.